Semi-failure, mistakes were made by Stefan Pastis. Semi-failure, mistakes were made. Semi-failure, mistakes were made. So my Uncle George Maparakis, thank you for everything. Smack. A prologue that is story-wise is out of order. It is harder to drive a bear into somebody's living room than you'd think. You need a living room window that is big enough to fit a car, and you need a car that is big enough to fit a polar bear, and you need a polar bear that is big enough to not point out your errors, like the fact that you've driven into the wrong house, which when it comes to cars and living room is bad. I should back up. The story, not the car. Chapter 1, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. My name is Failure, Timmy Failure, and I look like this. Timmy Failure, distinctive scarf. My family was once Failure, but somebody changed it and now it's spelled as you see it. I ask that you get the failure joke out of the way. I am anything but. I am the founder, president, and CEO of the detective agency I have named after myself, Failure Incorporated. It is the best detective agency in town and probably the country, perhaps the world. The book you are holding is a historical record of my life as a detective. It has been rigorously fact-checked. All the drawings in here are by me. I tried to get my business partner to do illustrations, but they were not good. For example, here is a depiction of me. Really doesn't look like the picture we saw on the page before. I have decided to publish the history of my expertise. It is invaluable to anyone who would ever want to be a detective. Just read the reviews. Invaluable to anyone who has ever wanted to be a detective. Anonymous. But success did not come overnight for me. I had to overcome these obstacles like these. My mother, my school, my idiot best friend, and my polar bear. Yes, I'm sure you have the same question everyone else does when I list these obstacles. Why am I best friends with an idiot? I'll get to that later. Oh, I suppose I should say a word about the 1,500-pound polar bear. His name is Total. Total's Arctic home is melting, and he wandered for food and found my cat's dish. He is now 3,101 miles away from his former home. Yes, it's a long way to roam for a catfish. But we buy good cat food, and sadly, my cat is now in kitty heaven, or perhaps kitty badlands. He never was a friendly cat, but still, I have the polar bear. Initially, Total displayed a fair degree of diligence and reliability, and thus I agreed to make him my partner in my agency. As it turned out, the diligence and reliability were a ruse, something polar bears do. I don't want to talk about it. I also don't want to discuss the change I agreed to make in the name of agency, which now reads like this in our Yellow Page ad. Total Failure Incorporated. We won't fail despite what the name says. And now I have to go because Timmy line is ringing. Ring. Chapter 2. The Candy Man can because he's missing all his candy. The call from Benner, classmate neighbor, and now just another guy missing his Halloween candy. I get lots of candy cases. They're not a headline grabbing, but they pay cash money. So I wake up my partner and hop on the Failure Mobile. I should say a word about the Failure Mobile. It's not actually called the Failure Mobile. It's a Segway, and it belongs to my mother. She won it in a raffle and now has set forth some restrictions on how I can use it. Never, never, never. The thought was vague, so I use it. So far, she hasn't objected, mostly because she doesn't know. That touches upon one of my founding principles of Total Failure Incorporated, which I have memorialized on my boot, on the sole of my left shoe. Keep Mom in the dark. The only complaint I have is that Failure Mobile is is its speed. If I write it somewhere Total walks, Total gets there first, and that wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that in between, Total naps. Zzz, put, put, put. So it isn't a surprise to me that when I get to Gunner's house, Total is already there, doing something that he frequently does when he beats me to a house. Before I tell you what that is, let me say this about first impressions are critical in a detective world. A client has to know at first glance that the detective is A, professional, B, classy, and C, discreet. All of this is undermined when the client's first impression of their detective is this: chomp, chomp, chomp. Lectured Total many times about eating the garbage from clients' trash cans, that now I believe he purposely sabotaging the agency. Fortunately for me, by the time I knock on Gunner's door, Total has finished eating everything edible from the trash cans and is able to stand next to the porch. Gunner answers the door and escorts us to the scene of the crime. And he points at an empty table by his bed and a plastic pumpkin. My plastic pumpkin was filled with candy right there, he says while pointing to the laptop. And now it's gone. I look at the tabletop and I can tell from the empty space that it's gone. He starts listing the candy that has been missing from the pumpkin: 2 Mars bars, 8 Twix, 7 3 Musketeers, 5 Kit Kats, 11 Almond Joys, 5 Snickers, and Abba Zaba and 8 Hershey Kisses. Gunner looks up at me. Are you getting all this down? Of course I'm getting it down. Candy gone. Let's start with the basics. I tell a client make payment. I take cash, checks, credit cards. I don't actually take credit cards, but it sounds professional, so I say it. How much will it cost? Asks the client. $4 a day plus expenses. Expenses? Asks Gunner. Chicken nuggets for the big man, I say, pointing up. Total roars, which looks intimidating until he falls backward and crushes Gunner's desk. That I know will be coming out of his chicken nuggets. I tell Gunner that I anticipate a 6-week investigation with lots of witnesses and maybe air travel. I'll show myself out, I tell him, and as I walk down the hall, I pass his brother Gabe's room. Gabe is sitting on his bed, surrounded by candy wrappers, and there's a chocolate smeared all over his face and an empty plastic pumpkin on the floor. Always on the lookout for clues. I make an important note in my detective log. Gabe, not tidy.